Welcome back to the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our fourth segment, which is going to be talking about some Blue Jays trade rumors and mainly involving two of their bigger stars, Bo Bichette and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. So, yeah, let's get straight into it. Now, over the weekend, we had the Blue Jays general manager go on radio and talk about how he would like to extend both Bo Bichette and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and not trade them. So that was an interesting little bit of a tidbit from there. As I've talked about a little bit on the show before, not really in depth like I am going to be right now. I think they could potentially both be trade candidates for for the deadline, and I think it would be wise for the Blue Jays to potentially look and see what they could get for both these players with where the team is right now. I mean, looking at the Blue Jays currently, they're fifth in the AL East, fifth, and they are not looking great. I mean, they're 5 games under 500, 12 and a half out of the AL of the AL East crown, and it's not looking great. And I think one of the things right now with the Blue Jays is the core is kind of looking stagnant. It's just kind of looking like there's a lot of staleness there with the team, and it's not looking new. And I just think there needs to be some changes. And the Blue Jays general manager is saying that he doesn't actively plan on trying to trade these guys, but the question is, should he? And honestly, yeah, I think he should. Now, what you could say is, what you could say is you shouldn't really sell them at their lowest value, which does make sense. I mean, you have Ross Atkins, who is the Blue Jays general manager, saying in the quote, "It just doesn't make any sense for us." He also supported the manager, John Schneider, in that. I know a lot of Blue Jays fans are not happy, but so that was interesting. But it is a question to say, okay, should we shop these guys at their lowest value? I mean, you look at Bo Bichette right now, and he's not doing great. I mean, he has negative WAR. His OPS right now is at 627, and it's not exactly like he plays great defense, so he's not really being as valuable a player right now. He did have a good season last year, so that could potentially factor in. And a lot of the time, when you're trading for players, you want to see you want to project what they do in the future, not their past stats. But at the same time, their past stats also do affect your evaluation of them in the future. Now, Vladdy Guerrero is an interesting one, as he is honestly having a pretty good season. I mean, his OPS is almost at 800. You look at his weighted runs created plus right now; it's at 133, so he's having a really good season. So you could potentially get a lot for him. But looking at the Jays right now, it's just going to be interesting to think what could they do to spice this team up. The AL East isn't getting any worse. You got the Yankees who are going to be there for a long time. Red Sox surprisingly doing really well. Orioles, of course, look like to be a dynasty in the making. You have the Rays, who might be good next year when they get all the injured players back and just kind of get the team back in order. That could also be a factor. And looking at this Blue Jays team, it's very mediocre. I see right now. I don't think they have that face the franchise guy. I don't think Vladdy or Bo are those guys. That's why you tried getting a Soto this offseason. That's why you tried getting an Ohtani this offseason. Obviously, you weren't successful, but I think that's showing why. And looking at both these guys, I do think they should look to trade them, honestly. And I think they should look to trade a lot of these players. I think they should just get the old core out, kind of go for maybe a rebuild for 1 or 2 years, and kind of see where they are after that. Looking at Guerrero right now, I think the question more with him is, when you trade him, you're kind of admitting defeat. Guerrero was kind of the chosen savior for Toronto ever since coming up. Was a top prospect, really, as soon as he had professional baseball. You had all the great storylines with him in the Blue Jays, being the son of a Canadian baseball legend in Vladimir Guerrero Sr., being born in Canada, um, being a great model off the field and on, being just a great player for this Blue Jays franchise, being kind of the savior for this team, and trading him, I think, would be admitting defeat and going into a rebuild. So, but you look at how good he's doing. You look at you look at the year and a half control you have on him. You get a lot for him. And are those prospects worth kind of telling your fans this is a rebuild? I don't know, and it's going to be interesting to see. Now, Bo Bichette's an interesting case, as he hasn't had a great season this year. He did last year, but he hasn't had a great season this year, and you'd be, again, selling at his lowest value. But maybe you think that it's time to move on from him and just give him a fresh start. That's also a possibility, and it is going to be interesting to see. But I think overall, I think the Blue Jays should look to trade some of these players, and looking at the roster, there's some other guys who look to trade. I think Kevin Gausman is another one who has 2.5 years left on a big contract, but a really good starting pitcher who, yes, hasn't had the greatest season this year, but you said a lot for him. Jordan Romano, I think, would also get some nice pieces back. Yusei Kikuchi, who only has 1 year left in his contract, who definitely would be traded by the Blue Jays if they do end up selling at the deadline. I think Gausman, Bichette, and Guerrero would be more extreme cases of going into a full rebuild than just selling at the deadline. You also have some other batters. I think even George Springer could look to be traded. Not sure if anyone would want his contract, though, but it's going to be very interesting to see what does end up happening with this Blue Jays team in the future, and just overall what is going to end up happening with this core if it does kind of get dismantled a little bit. I think that they are kind of stagnant right now with where they are, and they are just kind of mediocre. I think there's a lot to think about if you are the Blue Jays general manager or you're a Blue Jays fan, just thinking about the future of this team. And I'm very, very interested to watch. And I think the deadline could be a massive revelation for what the future of this team holds. If we do hear rumors about Bichette going or Vlad going, I think we know what direction this team is going in. And I think the question we have to think about is, should they trade them? Again, personally, I think yes. I think it makes a lot of sense, and I think it's the best course of action for the Blue Jays team. I would look to more trade Guerrero, just because I think you get a lot back for him, and you could end up kind of shuffling this team around. I think Gausman, again, also could go, freeing up a lot of cap room this offseason. Saying cap room likes baseball. Salary cap money, really is what I should say. So that could be interesting, but I think it's time for the Blue Jays to kind of get the old out and in with the new. You have some nice prospects coming up through the ranks. Ricky Tiedemann is a pitcher I really like. Leo Jimenez is a bat in that prospect pool that I also think is very solid. So I think it might be time again for the Blue Jays to go out with the old, in with the new. And it is going to be interesting to watch this trade deadline and seeing how active the Blue Jays are and seeing what does end up happening with this team. I'm very interested to watch. And you know my opinion, I think maybe a little bit of a rebuild or a retool is in order. But I think trading Guerrero or Bo Bichette would be a drastic step, and I think would signal a lot to this fan base. So I don't know if they'll go that far, but looking to shop a Kevin Gausman is a possibility. Yusei Kikuchi, I think, is 50-50 gone right now just because of the amazing season he's having. Might even do a segment on him in the near future talking about how good he's been. He added a new pitch to his repertoire, which also has helped him a lot, so that's also helping there, so I can talk about him. But yeah, this is the fourth segment here talking about the Blue Jays and just some trade rumors involving them and what I think could end up happening with them in the future. We'll be moving into our fifth and final segment, which is going to be talking about some general roster moves around the league that I did want to touch upon. So yeah, we'll be talking about that, and we'll see you after the break. So thanks, and bye.